mga kadens! Welcome and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new to my channel, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and follow. Also share my YouTube channel so that others may know that I am serving educational videos, vlogs, and everything about my life for other people to be inspired and to be motivated in their lives. Hope I can contribute to that. And please also don't forget to hit the notification bell for updates. Now, I welcome you to my another segment of my vlog, and it's gonna be educational this time. So wondering about my content? So please stay tuned and listen. Now, we Filipinos already know about how Rizal became a brilliant man in his years. Yes, we already are aware of his achievements, his all his rewards, all his awards, all the good deeds, and him being a part, or a great part, I may say, of Philippine Revolution. He's a great mark in Philippine history. Yes, I agree to that. But what if we take a look to the more human side of Rizal? I mean, in a certain thing or a certain concept, there's always a positive and a negative side, right? What if we just not focus on the positive things or positive side, but let's take a look at the negative side as well. What shall we discover, or what might we discover about the life of Jose Rizal? Well, we are so busy praising him about his positive achievements. Now, let's get to know the 7 things you probably do not know about Dr. Jose Rizal. We're going to learn about some conspiracy theories or issues, and even hearsays about our hero, Dr. Jose Rizal, which occurred even before, during, and after the death of Jose Rizal. So, let's start. First issue, the not so brilliant Rizal. Now our teachers have been exaggerating over the years about how Rizal is so intelligent, how he excelled in his early years, and how he became the awesome hero he was. And we can really attest to that, because I personally believe that Rizal was the next Albert Einstein, or he's very close to the smartest person in the world with the highest IQ. Yes, I actually believe that until I read an article about him, which can be found in Tatler, Philippines, and it's actually a legitimate source. Just try surfing it in the internet. Tatler, Philippines. Okay, going back. Now, as we fascinate our minds with Rizal's achievements, I found out that he's like us too. He has failures. Just knowing the fact that Rizal even graduated not as the valedictorian of his class during his college years. Well, I don't know if that's what teachers taught you, that Rizal graduated as valedictorian, but I actually found out that he didn't. Then he was just one of the 9 students in a class of 12 who received the title sobresaliente, the highest grade ever in college in his time. So, being one of the 9 in a class of 12, isn't that great as an achievement for a class of 12? Because given if many of them achieved that title in a class where majority got the title, is not a very great achievement to brag. Yes, definitely right. Then Pepe, the nickname of Rizal, made busy in attending sports activities, studying, attending extracurricular activities, and dating girls his age, just like us. Yes, that's high school and that's college. That's pretty normal. But at UST, while he enrolled in the College of Medicine after he shifted from philosophy and letters, he failed to excel his class. So we already know that Rizal is an excellent man, but him failing a class doesn't make him as brilliant as we knew about him. So biographers, which interpreted this in his work El Filibusterismo, one of his famous novels, in the chapter Physics class, they explained that it was based on his own experience. So he blamed the Dominican friars, the administrators of the school, for their conventional teaching, which was the very reason Rizal thought that he failed his class, because he was very used to the liberated education abroad. So with UST, he didn't like the teaching of the friars, so he failed to excel the class. That's it. He blamed the educational system. He even tried to raise a protest, but nobody in his class supported him. That is why he decided to continue or pursue his education in abroad and left UST. So, knowing that reason, we all now know that Rizal was not as brilliant as we know he is. Yes. Then, let's proceed. Second issue, Rizal's attitude and the propaganda movement. Rizal was pretty known to be our national hero who contributed a lot to the Philippine Revolution. So he was regarded as one of the minds of the propaganda movement. Rizal and Marcelo H. del Pilar were both part of the Círculo Hispano-Filipino in Europe, an organization of Filipinos who were living in Europe that time. They could have emerged as partners in terms of leadership in the said organization, not until a petty misunderstanding happened, recounted by Antonio Valeriano's book, Marcelo H. del Pilar, Ang Kanyang Buhay, Diwa at Panulat, published in 1994. So what could have been this petty misunderstanding brought to the organization itself? And why did this misunderstanding even exist? So on a party held on December 20, 1890, Rizal and Del Pilar were the only nominees to be selected as the leader of the said organization. So it's between him and Rizal. So whoever wins will be the leader. You get it? That's a system of elections. Now, going on, the winner has to gather 2/3 of the body's votes. So, the first counting began and Rizal won. But his votes didn't reach the 2/3 ratio or the 2/3 quota. So, counting happened again and then another counting until Rizal couldn't hold anymore or couldn't take it anymore. He decided to walk out of the room. But before he walked out of the room, he said this, that now I know I only have 19 friends in this room. So could this mean that he only had 19 votes for the series of countings? So this makes sense. But going on, while they were determining the winner of the elections, Rizal was the persistent winner. But then the incident happened, he walked out of the room, so they declared Del Pilar as the winner instead, because Rizal was a bit carried away by his attitude. Yes. So it is just rightful that they selected Del Pilar as a leader, because who would select a leader who's not in the room with you, right? And Rizal tweeted in writing for La Solidaridad, the official newsletter of the propaganda, even with the insistence of Del Pilar. So, Del Pilar didn't put a grudge to Rizal, and he even insisted that Rizal should continue writing in La Solidaridad. But Rizal didn't. Now, the feud got worse when an article entitled The Illusionist was released in La Solidaridad. Rizal thought it was made to allude him, and he blamed Del Pilar for letting it out because Del Pilar was the leader of the propaganda movement. it couldn't be denied that Del Pilar is aware of all the articles released in the propaganda. And Rizal, having known this, wrote a letter to Del Pilar, said, "I am deeply hurt by Del Pilar's permission to print the article." It is very obvious that Rizal actually took it as a revenge for him from Del Pilar due to that election event. But then later it was found out that the article was written by someone named Lete, and it was about the falling of a revolution without the means of having success. Note about Rizal. Next issue. Almost the anti-hero he was. When we Filipinos regarded the Philippine Revolution on 1896 to 1901 as a time where people were most united, most involved, and most active in attaining freedom, there is still an unresolved issue about Rizal, that he's not really in favor of the planned revolution. Now, this is the twist of the story, because Rizal, being the national hero, he should have been the main ingredient in planning the revolution, or should we say, the whole brain of the plan. But then this issue emerged that he wasn't even supporting the plan at first and was opposed to the revolution. Why do you think so? No, his writings, according to the historians, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, were no doubt, yes, I agree to this, no doubt major influencers of the bloodless revolution. However, his leadership in the revolution were discredited by historians. In fact, they played down his role in it. Yes, because according to Renato Constantino in his Rizal Day lecture in 1969, Rizal was actually the leader of the opposition against the planned revolution. Now, question. Why must Rizal have to oppose the revolution, where in fact the revolution will benefit the Filipinos and is in line with his own advocacy to prevent Filipinos from suffering in oppression and for further abuse of power from the Spaniards? When the plan came into him, he opposed it for its impossibility, and he even offered what he could do to stop it. Why? These are the reasons. Rizal even thought of it as absurd and was not in favor for it being a crime for its methods, because actually the people before were planning a revolution and they're planning to have a war against the Spaniards, but then Rizal was opposing it because of its methods, as I've said earlier. And he manifested that education is the primary key to freedom, and reforms that come from above are fruitful, while those from below are insecure and quite irregular. So take note the words that were used by Rizal, above and below. What could these words mean? It was found out that Rizal believed that education for educated persons have the power to change, while those who are below, or the non-educated ones, or those who are deprived from having the right to educate themselves, will just cause another irregularity or another chaos in the system. So this is another sign of discrimination from our so-called national hero. The issue was then again fueled because of Pio Valenzuela's accounts. First, he stated that Rizal was against the plan of premature rebellion on September 8 and 96, and even released foul words toward it. Now, that's the first on his account. On his second account, on October the same year, 1896, he changed his statement a bit by saying that Rizal did oppose the rebellion but did not say the foul words. We have an issue here. So it's about the inconsistency of his statements. Now, 2 decades later, Valenzuela reversed his story again. He affirmed that Rizal was not really against the revolution, but merely advised the Katipuneros to wait for the right time to peak, secure what are needed, and find support from the higher classes. Now, another inconsistency from Pio Valenzuela himself, a writer in Rizal's time. So this made historians doubt his heroism. Was Rizal really our hero? Or he was the anti-hero himself? Constantino then declared that Rizal's weakness was first, failure to empathize with the sentiments of his people. He just wanted to repudiate the armed rebellion and believed that violence was not the answer. So this is first his weakness, because he failed to put his shoe to the side of the people who were already dynamic about having change or revolting against the Spaniards because they couldn't take anymore the abuse, the oppression they have experienced. While Rizal, being the more educated one, believed that there is still more conventional way in doing it. So he plainly was just against it in the first place. Then the second weakness was that his underestimation of his people's capacity to raise the revolution into action despite their social status, being one of those who are below, whom he labeled it in his statements. So Rizal thought that his people were not so educated like him or like one of his friends. That is why he was against the plan. You decide about this certain issue. Is Rizal really our hero, or was he an anti-hero himself? Next issue is Rizal's love problems. Now, normally, college students and high school students experience their love affairs during these times of puberty, like in high school years or in college years. And Rizal, being a person he was or he is, made sure that he had to experience this love affairs. Now, the question is, was Rizal a faithful lover? It was speculated that he was in general the reality behind the character Crisostomo Ibarra in his 2 novels. In the novels, Crisostomo Ibarra was the faithful one, loyal, and romantic as ever. Yes, we can attest to that Crisostomo Ibarra is a kind of man that is very ideal for women because of his love or eternal love for Maria Clara, the woman he's trying to pursue. That with his willingness to pursue that woman, he even put off a disguise just to see her in the convent where she was in. It is then said that the woman Rizal almost married was Leonor Rivera, whom he corresponded for 6 years. And all those years of love, of dedication, of affection between Rizal and Leonor Rivera were put into waste. Why? Because they did not get married. Why do you think so? Because in the letters between Rizal and Jose M. Cecilio, a controversy about another Leonor was spotted, according to Professor Leon Maria Guerrero's book, The First Filipino. So, Rizal was speculated to have 2 affairs between 2 Leonors. Oh, what a coincidence. 2 affairs and 2 maidens with the same name. There were actually 2 Leonors whom Rizal got engaged with because, in fact, in a book by Professor Ambeth Ocampo entitled Rizal Without an Overcoat, he talked about De Leon, a classmate of Rizal who courted both Leonor Rivera and Leonor Valenzuela. He was rejected by both women because they declared that they were fiancés of her national hero, Rizal himself. So Rizal managed to take the hands of 2 Leonors in one time. One time. Rizal, having experienced that, doesn't make him a full role model for youth. Now, in the letter correspondence between Rizal and Cecilio, Rivera was nicknamed as Little Landlady, while Valenzuela the Winsome or Ram. So he even named the two maidens whom he was engaged with. So pretty interesting, right? And while Rizal was really a romantic man, but being loyal? Now, let's take a step back from that quote of Rizal being loyal when we stick to this issue. Now, and the bottom line is, we don't know if this is true or not, but at least this is one of the issues we tackled today. Next issue, Rizal as a doctor, or so he thought. Now, along with the achievements and courses that Rizal gained during her college years, was that the fact that he enrolled in the College of Medicine before he shifted from philosophy and letters. Now, he even built a clinic in Calamba and managed to establish a good reputation as ophthalmologist. So, we can assume that Rizal really did study well, took the course, had the course obtained, graduated from it, had a degree, and then took his profession into action. Now, he also managed to bring back the failing eyesight of his mother, which truly made Rizal a man of many skills and talents. And what made him more admirable is that he applied his skills to his family and friends. So, wish we could be like him though. But, a big but, while building a school clinic in Dapitan during his exile in 1892, people trusted him a lot, for he was trained abroad for his profession. So, they often consult him for their diseases, for their medical problems, though most of them were already beyond his specializations. And the best part, or the most tricky part here, is that Rizal accepted those consultations. Tricky fact about being a doctor is that when you know what is your specialization in terms of that field, you need to stick to that field, because instances might happen if you accept consultations which is beyond your field. When there are failures, when there are problems occurring after you execute or you give prescriptions, you will be the one to be blamed, because you yourself is not specialized to that certain field. Now, Rizal was so brave enough to accept those consultations. Ocampo wrote that when Valenzuela arrived to Dapitan on June 21, 1896, so this is where we know that Rizal is really a doctor or not. So Valenzuela was going to talk to Rizal. He was with a blind man named Raimundo. And this certain Raimundo was found out after Rizal examined his blindness, his eyes, that his sickness or his blindness was beyond any cure of medicine. So, in short, nothing or no medicinal expert could provide something that could cure his blindness. However, Rizal prescribed something to Raimundo, and it was 3 grams of potassium iodide in 100 grams of distilled water to be taken 1 spoonful every morning. Now, I am not from the medical field, and while reading the prescription, I can really say that I don't have a problem with that. Rizal is a doctor. He has a prescription. So, he might have known something about the disease, or the blindness rather, and he did that on purpose. But then, Ocampo tried to consult a professional ear, nose, and throat specialist about the description and discovered that it was actually for urinary problems or diuretic. So, was this another medicinal or medical malpractice? Or did Rizal knew about another medical problem which caused Raimundo's blindness? Or it could be related to his urinary tract infections or urinary problems. So, we don't really know the answer to that. Let's proceed to the other issue. Noli Me Tangere and the philosopher Rizal. Many might not know the history behind the making of Noli Me Tangere, one of his famous novels, along with El Filibusterismo. The title Noli Me Tangere is the Latin version, or the Latin translation of the words touch me not or do not touch me. And biblically speaking, these were the exact words Jesus said to Mary Magdalene as Mary Magdalene discovered or recognized him after his resurrection. So, do not touch me or touch me not. Soon, on 1887, copies of the said novel were distributed around the parts of the globe. And if you can recall about Noli Me Tangere, it talked about revolution, just like El Filibusterismo. So, because those were the themes of Rizal's novels. However, the title and the novel itself gained a lot of controversies all around the globe. And when he came back to the Philippines, he was even dubbed as sorcerer, a Freemason, or a damned soul in evil, because revolutionary themes. On the other hand, a theory states that Rizal actually predicted his own death. Yes, he predicted his own death. So, going back, many characters from his novels undeniably embodied Rizal as a person, and one of these is Elias. And one of Elias' lines state that, I shall die without seeing the dawn break upon my homeland. You who shall see it, salute it. Do not forget those who have fallen during that night. After that, the character died. And it can be recalled that Rizal died during dawnbreak. And this line seemed to be pertaining to his own death. In addition, it can also be recalled that during his younger years, he stated that one day he would have a monument for himself in honor for him. And then it happened. In Luneta Park, there is a monument about Rizal. And in many other places in the Philippines, there are monuments in honor for Rizal, being our national hero who died for freedom. So, mind-blowing, right? Let's blow your minds further with this next issue. In relation to what I've said, or the issue number 6, Rizal the Messiah. So a lot of conspiracy theories sparked even after Rizal existed, like him being Adolf Hitler's father, him having a secret son, and many more. So those were just absurd issues about our national hero Rizal. But this really grabbed my attention as I researched for this. Many people actually believe that Rizal died and shall return soon to uplift his followers or believers from poverty and oppression. So, having heard about this, seems that Rizal was regarded as a god. A god. A god that is capable of resurrecting for the sake of another purpose. And they even regard Rizal as the Filipino Christ or the god of pre-Spanish Malay religion. They firmly believe in his divinity as a person. Now, this quite makes sense if you just rely on the fact that he's a philosopher himself, predicting his own death, and having a passion for freedom, having a passion for the love of his people, and having a selfless attitude towards the country. But then again, Rizal was human himself, so he could not be divine himself. But then, his followers formed a certain religion and called themselves Rizalists. and they come from ethnic native groups in the Philippines and even cults such as Iglesia Sagrada ni Lahi and the Banner of the Race Church, which is the largest of those groups. So Rizal really made an impact to the minds and hearts of people. Not just him being the hero, but him being the actual Messiah who will return soon and correct the ills of the society, especially poverty and oppression. They still await his coming, even in this time, and synthesize to the Roman Catholic Church rituals. Now, those were the 7 things you probably do not know about our national hero. Would this affect how we see Rizal as a hero? Knowing his human side does not mean that we need to discredit his achievements or his good deeds for the sake of our freedom. We already know, or we are already aware of how he sacrificed a lot for the sake of what we are enjoying today. We achieved our liberty. We had the Philippines, the now of the Philippines, because of history itself, and a major part of it was the existence of Dr. Jose Rizal. These issues might not be true, or might be true in some other parts, but then let's not forget that he was a great man himself and he is meant to be honored. So the inclusion of GE9, or the life and works of Jose Rizal, to the curriculum in college is just a testimony of how Filipinos regard him as one of the greatest men ever lived in Philippine history, and who indeed brought pride and honor to our countries. These issues existing will not make him less of a hero, but rather will make him more human. And him being more human would make him not just a great hero, but a relatable one, whom we can mirror ourselves into and learn from his actions, learn from his dedication, his passion, and his optimism, his goodness in almost everything. But then, let's not forget that no man is perfect for himself. Every man is created to be imperfectly perfect. And that is the design planned by God. Now, that's the end of our content for today about the 7 things you probably do not know about Dr. Rizal. If you have issues or comments, and if you have something to add, please don't forget to put it in the comment section, and we can include that into our future vlogs so that the viewers will be aware of other issues that we weren't able to tackle in this vlog. So, thank you for listening. Mga kadens, remember, as I said earlier, that every man is created imperfectly perfect. So the flaws of Rizal wouldn't make him less of a hero, but would make him a more relatable human for us. Now, see you soon. Thank you for listening and hope you learned something about my vlog. Bye!